Good morning. Here we are. Oh man, it's happening. Good to be back. What up, everybody? We are live. Let's see who's going to be first in the chat. Jordan, what up? You're first AF, bro. Hi, Jordan. What's up, Pasta? Good to see you, buddy. Thank you for taking care of Lucy. Frederick, what's up? Good to see everybody. Good morning. Have a sip of coffee. Good afternoon. Good evening. I know everyone's all over the place. Speaking of all over the place, Progressive Comedy Tour, booking some more dates. East Coast, we're going to see you in the summer. We're stoked. Midwest, we're going to see you in the summer or fall. What's up, Susan? Good morning, Karen. How are you? You are not first, but you are still very early. You always knock it out of the park. Good to see everybody. I've missed you all this week. It hasn't been the same. Not doing a Get Your News On with Ron. Walking Progressive, hello. Will Running Progressive be making an appearance? And what is Jogging Progressive up to? I'd like to see all three of you. But good to have you on board, Walking Progressive. Good morning, afternoon, or evening, whatever's going on, you know? And let me know if the other Progressive... So I know I'm lagging a little bit here. I gotta be, because it's saying there's only 3 people here, and more than that has said hi to me. So, yeah. What's up, K-Line? Howdy, howdy. Dan, it was as good of a trip as it could be, you know. I mean, I know I mentioned it before. I was out of town for my grandmother's funeral, so you know, it was as good as a trip as something like that can be. But you know, again, I've said it before. I will say it again before we start. Thank you guys so much for your love and support and kind words. So many of you guys have sent me emails and tweeted tweets to me and left comments. And it really means an awful lot. It really, really does. And thank you guys so much. You know, she had an amazing run, my grandmother. She was 101 years old. So, you know, and we gave her a really, really cool send-off. It was a really nice send-off. Friends and family were amazing. Yeah. So, what's up, Matthew? It is good to be back. It is very, very good to be back. And I hope everyone is having a lovely middle of the week. We have a lot to talk about. You guys have been sending a lot of stuff. Because a lot's going on, and we've had a little bit of a vacay. Not really a vacay, because it was not a vacation by any means on my end, but we were absent for a few days here. And it says we're at about 12 now. Once we hit 30, we will officially begin. And we'll talk about what we're going to talk about, which is a lot of stuff, huh? How do you like that foreshadowing? How do you like that forecast? That's a fun one, right? 15. People are going to be a little slow today because it's our first day back after a bit of a hiatus. Whenever you alter the system a little bit, you know, you have to spend a little bit of time rebuilding it, which is a bummer, but that is the land of the YouTubes. That is how the YouTubes goes. So we just got to deal with it. What's up, Emos? Good to see ya. Daniel, good morning. Hope everybody had a wonderful week. I hope you guys celebrated Music Monday. I know we didn't get to do that this week, unfortunately, which bums me out. But I hope you guys did some stuff on your own. I'm going to go see the Blasters, which I'm really stoked for. G. Gibson, thank you very much. Good to hear from Portland, Oregon. I will see you this year, by the way, and I can't wait to see you, Portland. And you know what? Maybe some of your beer is too hoppy, but you also make amazing beer as well. I've never not had a good time brewery hopping in Portland, Oregon. What's up, Scott? Good to see you. Good morning. Tuesday Tunes, Emma says. What's up, Nathan? Good to see you, buddy. Hope to be in your neck of the woods soon. I know we're trying to do some regional stuff in Arizona, and we're definitely going back to Vegas, by the way. the Progressive Comedy Tour. I'll shout out all the tour dates at the end, as we always do. But yeah, we're working on some dates. Just announced Utah. Exciting stuff. And once we're at 30, we will officially begin. You know. Let me get a little water. We're at 20. Crescent Ballroom. Where is that at? That's in Arizona? That's Phoenix, yeah? Yeah, that's Phoenix, because that's where Steve Davis's show is going to be. How's Lucy? Lucy is doing okay. Lucy had a kind of stressful few days because I went out of town, and also, unfortunately, Lucy had to go to the vet for her yearly checkup right when I got back, because Lucy was due for a vet appointment. I had scheduled it for Tuesday afternoon. Then I had to leave town because my grandmother died, but I really didn't want to have that hanging over my head as the holidays begins, you know? I didn't want to, I had to do some holiday shopping, I had to do some other things, so I wanted Lucy to get her vet trip in. So unfortunately, she's a little aloof today. She had to get her rabies vaccine. But yeah, anyway... Guys, we're over 30. Welcome to Get Your News On with Ron, the world's first viewer-curated streaming news show. I am Ron Placone, your host. You get it. Back from the trip, which again, I'll just give a real quick shout out. Thank you guys so much for all your kind words and all your well wishes and all your lovely thoughts regarding the passing of my grandmother. I saw all of your tweets and I saw all your emails and your messages, and thank you very much. I appreciate how kind you guys were. I missed you all this week. We didn't have any episodes Monday or Tuesday. I hope you enjoyed the clips that we pushed out. We still had a lot of clips going out. But yeah, I missed the stream, and I am thrilled to be back. And boy, do we have a lot to talk about. There is so much going on all around the world, and we're going to get to some of it over the course of the next hour. So let's start with our topic. Guys, I'm sure a lot of you have already seen this. Chuck Schumer, Nancy Pelosi, Donald Trump, and Mike Pence, who was the silent partner throughout the whole thing. He didn't say a word the entire time. He didn't say a word. It was like it was a pro-choice rally or something. Mike Pence just completely silenced the whole frickin' time. But they had a little roundtable discussion filmed via the Washington Post, and for 10 minutes they went back and forth. And people that are Trump supporters are celebrating it, because they thought Donald Trump was very authoritative and very stern and forceful and impactful. And people that are fans of the Democratic establishment are celebrating it as well. They're saying that Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer played good politics. They got Trump to kind of make an admission that he was willing to shut the government down, and they played it well. And then I'm sitting there, once again, wondering if I'm watching the same video clip any of these other people are watching. And man, I really hate to be the naysayer here, but I watched that thing and I thought, why is anybody celebrating any of this? What is there to celebrate? We're not going to watch the clip because that would just be, I mean, I did it once, that's enough. But first of all, for about 5 minutes, they basically just went back and forth about the outcome of the elections. They were just bickering about what happened during the midterms, and it had the level of about a bar argument at 2 a.m. in the morning. You know, Nancy, well, we got huge gains in the House. Yeah, but you didn't get the Senate. And then Chuck goes, elections have consequences, Mr. President. And then Trump points out, well, you didn't get the Senate, which, by the way, Chuck, that's on you. There was this kind of verbal diarrhea, bickering back and forth, for about 5.5 minutes. That was about half of the entire thing. Then they talked about how they're willing to, that they don't want to shut the government down, and Trump at first agreed with that. And then they talked about, quote, border security. Now, what nobody said throughout this entire thing, wait, I take that back. they were talking about border security. Now, Democrats were really careful to talk about the wall because they know how terrible the wall is, and they know how much the public doesn't want it. They know how terrible it is politically for them to engage about the wall. But they weren't willing to go that far. Why? Well, because they already promised some money for the wall. And the most hard-hitting question and point that was brought up was not brought up by Nancy Pelosi or Chuck Schumer, and it certainly wasn't brought up by Donald Trump or Mike Pence. The point was brought up by a reporter, which, you know, I'm very critical of the corporate media, but whoever did this, they did the right thing. I don't know who it was. I don't know what reporter said it. You couldn't really tell. They were off camera. They didn't introduce themselves. But whoever did it made a good move in this particular case. And they said, is a wall necessary? Chuck Schumer wasn't willing to do that. Nancy Pelosi wasn't willing to do that. After all, they already promised at least $1 billion. But one person in the media actually at least had the courage to do that. And they did say, is the wall necessary? Trump said it's absolutely necessary. Chuck Schumer did at one point say it wasn't. Of course, he did that under the guise of the reporter brought it up first. But they're willing to give the money for the wall anyway. Why? Because as Nancy Pelosi pointed out earlier in the discussion, they want a bipartisan solution. What nobody's talking about is how grossly unpopular this wall really is. It does not have public support. We don't even know how much it's going to cost, which they did bring that up, but we don't even know how much it's going to cost. It is such a waste of resources. It is based in xenophobia and racism. It's a racist policy idea. And keep in mind, most of the public doesn't want it. All you need to point to, Trump didn't even win the popular vote. That's a point. Whenever the Democratic establishment wants to smear the left and validate centrism, they'll bring up the point that Donald Trump didn't win the popular vote. However, whenever it comes to going against Trump's policies, they never bring that part up. They never bring that up. They never bring it up that, hey, Donald Trump didn't even win the popular vote. Most people are against the wall. They don't bring that part up when it comes to fighting Trump. They only bring it up when it comes to smearing the left. Why? And I'm just being objective here. That's just objectively what happened throughout that entire discussion. I watched the 10-minute video with Tums in hand. They bickered about the election for about 6 minutes. The hardest hitting question, the hardest hitting point was brought up by a reporter, nobody in that room. Mike Pence sat there in silence. I mean, it might have been a gay pride parade with how silent Mike Pence was. He had nothing. He just sat there looking uncomfortable. At one point, it looked like he was asleep. And I don't know how anybody on any side was celebrating this. I mean, I know it's very hard to entertain this idea that there are no good guys. But there are no good guys. I know that's a hard... I get it. And in our media, on most sides, even on the quote-unquote left, and of course on the right, you know, you're supposed to cheerlead. You're supposed to cheerlead something. So there's people like me. I don't consider any of those people colleagues because I don't cheerlead anything. I'm not a cheerleader. That's just not what I'm a comedian. I'm not supposed to be. But you're supposed to cheerlead something. And I'm the person who's watching the game and I'm going, this is the Harlem Globetrotters and the Washington Generals. How am I supposed to cheerlead something? What am I supposed to cheerlead? This isn't real. This is bullshit. The Democratic establishment considers this a victory just because they think that they got Donald Trump to admit that he's willing to shut the government down, which that happened at the very end. Chuck Schumer got Trump to say he'll shut the government down, and they know that that's bad politics for whoever shuts the government down, apparently. However, Donald Trump has proven time and time again that they actually, that playing this outsider role has benefited him. He's proven that time and time again. So I wouldn't assume that if I was the Democratic establishment. Now, could that still be the case because it's been the case in the past? Sure, it could be. I'm just saying I wouldn't take it for granted, is what I'm saying. I'm not saying that's not going to be the case, that it's not going to hurt him politically if he shuts the government down. I think it certainly very well could. And typically it does. In the past it has. So I'm not saying it's not going to. I'm just saying I wouldn't take it for granted. That's all I'm saying. There really were no victories. This wall is going to be an incredible waste of resources. It's going to be an incredible waste of money. It's going to be a hateful thing. And if Democrats aren't opposing it tooth and nail and aren't vowing to give nothing for it and fighting it politically with every tool they have, they're not doing their job. And we know they're not doing their job. So, and I want you guys to take a look at this for a sec. Well, let's go to what you guys are saying. Does anyone disagree with what I just said? I mean, honestly, and feel free to. I mean, you know, we disagree sometimes here, and it makes for an interesting conversation. Am I being too hard on this segment? Is there a better takeaway? Is there something more positive to take away from this? The fact that we might get this wall. They're going forward with this wall. They're negotiating with Trump. They're giving him money, even though nobody wants it. Jennifer W. Schumer always bends over. Daniel, not in the slightest. Convo couch, somewhat. Elaborate. That's just one word. Elaborate your thoughts there. Scott Dow absolutely agrees. M. Oss, $1 billion. Thank you. $1 billion could go to education, infrastructure, single payer, etc. Jennifer, they're too bipartisan. Yeah, absolutely. Convo couch. Trump looked proactive. The DNC leadership looked reactive. I agree with that. So you're saying that Trump supporters do have a reason to be happy because Trump looked like the powerful guy in that situation. If that's what you're saying, I agree with you. So I guess, yeah, I can see how Trump supporters would be happy about this. I certainly don't see how anyone else could be. But on the same note, Trump also looked like a whiny baby throughout most of it. And that's how it's being reported. So I do see it. I think that he held his ground. He did seem like a spoiled, whiny baby, but I mean, I expect nothing less from Donald Trump. Alan points out this is the same team. D. Canuck points out the Trump supporters do want the wall. K-Line report, if a wall is so good, ask Berlin or China how it went. Let's see. Come on, Fox News is all whiny babies. Yeah, that's true. I think most of our politics are. All right, so let's see. I brought these things up so we can see, and I know we kind of know the arguments here, but I just want to take a look at this before we move on to something else. So here's why some people are celebrating this. Playing by his own rules, Trump flips the shutdown script. The trick in Washington has always been to make sure a government shutdown is pinned on the other guy. President Trump is the first to ever pin one on himself. In a new twist on the old game of shutdown politics from the 90s, Mr. Trump was essentially goaded on Tuesday by Chuck and Nancy into embracing ownership of a shutdown. And this is how it would happen at the end. I will take the mantle. I'm not going to blame you for it. The last time you shut it down, it didn't work. I will take the mantle of shutting it down. I'm going to shut it down for border security. So this is why some people in the Democratic establishment are celebrating this, and I know you guys already realize this, but they're saying, oh, they got Trump to admit that the shutdown's on him if it happens. Now the deadline's December 21st. So this was a victory. Even though the wall Still might happen. Democrats are even promising money for it. They should promise zero. They're promising at least $1 billion. How can you call something a victory when you promise the opposition $1 billion for something that nobody in your camp wants? You can't. It's not a victory. It's just not a victory. We got him to admit that the government shutdown's on him if it happens. You think by December 21st, the United States of Amnesia media cycle isn't going to forget all about this conference? Let me tell you something. They are. They are. Now, here's what you need to know if the shutdown happens. We'll go here real quick, then we're moving on to other topics. Looming government shutdown, what you need to know. It's been an above-normal day of controversy in Washington, D.C. with regards to President Trump, blah, 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 blah. Yeah, they met. Okay. All right, so the deadline is December 21st. Here's some things you need to know about the situation. Trump says he will proudly shut the government down if Congress doesn't approve his request. Right, we know this. A bipartisan bill of $1.3 billion was approved by Congress. And by bipartisan, we mean they give Trump most of what he wants. He's getting $1.3 billion for the wall. The Democrats felt emboldened when dealing with Trump, as they are, okay, well, they shouldn't be. 70% of government is funded through September 2019. That includes the Pentagon, Department of Health and Human Services, and more. Other agencies are waiting for the approval of the current defense bill. But don't worry, guys. We got defense covered. Sleep easy. It is possible that if the government shutdown happens December 21st, it will not reopen until January. Okay? Democrats still control enough seats in Congress to block Trump's spending bill. The president believes that the $5 billion funding of the wall were made available, it would save the government billions. Well, it wouldn't. A partial government shutdown would be disruptive and would affect several government departments. Okay? All right, I think a lot of that was stating the obvious, but there's a summary nonetheless. Let me go to you guys real quick here before we move on to other topics. Let me see what y'all are saying. Let's see. United States of Amnesia, best line ever. Well, D, it can be credited to Gore Vidal first. The DNC presents zero solutions. That is true. So basically, if you're part of the Democratic establishment, you have no reason to be happy about what happened. They did not have some big gotcha moment with Trump. It will be forgotten by December 21st. They're willing to give money for a wall that nobody except for Trump supporters, which is about 27% of the country at best, wants. They're not bringing up the fact that popular opinion is against the wall. They're not bringing up the fact that it should not be funded. They're not bringing up the fact, though they glossed over the point that we don't even know how much it's going to cost. So, no, this was not a victory for the Democratic establishment. And this was not a victory. Trump supporters, if you view it from the lens of Trump was proactive and standing up, okay, I can see how you might be a little happy. But on the same note, he did not present himself well. He presented himself as a bully. He presented himself as, I thought it came across as very whiny. But being the outsider has worked out for him before. Being the, quote, outsider has worked out for him before. So we'll see. It might happen again here. So, Democratic establishment, no reason to be happy. Trump supporters, I can see it both ways. I can see how you might be happy. I can see how you might not be. I guess it all depends on how you view the optics. And Jennifer points out, to that point that Convo Couch brought up, Trump always presents himself as a joke. That is true. And it has worked for him so far. So, you know, Karen Mitchell sums it up perfectly. We don't need no stinking wall. Agreed. All right, let's move on to other things. We got a lot of things to talk about. Let's move on to some of them. Shout out to our sponsor, ZT.com, ZHITEA.com. Their T kind of rules. Check it out. All right. So, guys, you know that municipal internet is a cause near and dear to my heart and that we update on it regularly on this show. And here is a little bit of proof that the messaging is starting to take root a little bit. And here's something to give us a little bit of optimism, which is important today. Boom. Comcast rejected by small town. Residents vote for municipal fiber instead. Charlton, Mass. Comcast offered to wire up $462,000. Town said no. All right, so let's dive into this. A small Massachusetts town has rejected an offer from Comcast and instead plans to build a municipal fiber broadband network. Comcast offered to bring big cable internet up to 96% of households in exchange for the town paying $462,000 plus interest towards infrastructure costs over 15 years. Now they rejected. Now here's a quote. The Comcast proposal would have saved the town about $1 million, but it would not be a town-owned broadband network. The defeated measure means that Charleston will go forward with a $1.4 million municipal town network, as was approved by annual town meeting voters in 2015. Now, I will take a small objection to what that reporter said. When you just take it on the surface of this is what Comcast is willing to build and this is what they want the city to pay, this is what it costs if the city does it itself. Is it costing more on the surface at the very beginning for the city? Numerically, yes. Comcast is saying, hey, we're willing to foot out the difference. You pay us $462,000. The city's saying if we did this on our own, it would cost $1.4 million. Obviously, $1.4 million is more than $462,000. But, this is over the course of 15 years, which first of all, there's going to be interest. Second of all, investing in municipal fiber is exactly that. It's an investment into your city. Letting Comcast control your internet, that's just giving money to Comcast. So instead, you're going to have a city-owned internet where those payments get made to the city. Your cost is going to be lower than Comcast would be. So residents over the course of 15 years are going to pay a lower internet bill than what they would pay if Comcast was in charge. And also, everybody that's done municipal internet so far has the highest quality internet in the country at a reasonable price. You know what that brings to the city? Business. Ask Chattanooga, Tennessee. So I would take a small objection to what that reporter said about this would save the city money. For the initial check, technically it would. But over the course of 15 years, it would not. It would not save the city money. It would cost the city money, and it would pad Comcast's pockets. You know how I know that? Because if that wasn't the case, Comcast wouldn't want to build the project in the first place. Comcast crunches the numbers. If the numbers don't add up, they don't go there. So they crunch the numbers, and they make an offer. And if for some reason they're not seeing the profits they want to see, guess what? They're going to charge you more. They're going to take it out on you, the customer. So that reporter was incorrect in saying that the Comcast deal would save the city money. It would not. Unless you think that a penny never goes into... Unless you think that after Comcast is done building, customers don't have an internet bill. Which, that ain't the case. So it does not save the city money. That is a small correction in that article. That reporter was wrong. Comcast would not save the city money. So let's get back to this article. Small correction. Okay. So about 160 residents voted. 56% rejected the Comcast offer. Charlton has about 1,300 residents. Covers 26 miles in the northwest Massachusetts. All right. An increase in property taxes would cover the construction costs, but the town also brings in revenue from selling broadband service and potentially break even, making the project less expensive than Comcast's offer. There you go. With 59% of households taking broadband service, the tax hike would be 29 cents per 1,000 of assessed home value. The town plans to charge $79 a month for standalone internet service with gigabit download and upload speeds and no data cap, so the price could rise to $99 a month if fewer than 40% of households buy the service. Town also plans to offer phone and TV services cheaper than Comcast. So, a quick nuts and bolts for anyone, maybe this is the first clip you're watching about municipal broadband, which, by the way, I have a playlist dedicated to this topic. Please do check it out. It's on my YouTube channel, and it's just the Muni Net Neutrality playlist. Municipal broadband takes the internet out of private interest hands like your Comcast, like your AT&T, and puts it into the hands of the city. And that's what this town in Massachusetts voted to do. They realized that by putting the internet in our own hands, it will save us money and we will get a better product. And especially with issues like net neutrality looming, you know, when you have city-owned broadband, you can write net neutrality into your charter. You can guarantee it. And you know where to go. You show up to a town hall if something ain't right. If Comcast wants to violate net neutrality, well, nothing's really stopping them. Well, I mean, it's being battled out in court right now, so technically something kind of is. But for the most part, nothing's really stopping them. So that's what municipal broadband is, and that's why it solves the net neutrality issue once and for all. And this town in Massachusetts made the right call. And we would really live in a different country if every town did what this town in Massachusetts is doing. And again, towns that have already done municipal broadband, they get the best internet in the country at a reasonable price. They pay less than most other people pay, and it brings business into the community. Whether you attack this from the point of internet rights and digital rights, whether you attack this from an economic argument, whether you attack this from a libertarian argument, either way, municipal broadband is still the best option. Municipal broadband is still the best option. Why put your internet in the hands of an outside entity? If you don't have to, why not? All right. Boom. Net neutrality. There's an update. We got a little music news. Somebody sent this in, and I thought this was kind of cool, so we'll share it real quick. I mean, we didn't have a Music Monday this week, but some of you guys have been sending me some music stuff anyway throughout the week, so I thought we'd do one of them. And this is pretty cool. I appreciate you sharing this. But let's go to this next. Punk is alive and well thanks to Emory Class and Rose Archive. So this is from Emory. Is it Emory College or Emory University? Let me see. Emory University. Okay, I wasn't sure. It's not an institution I'm super familiar with, so I wasn't sure if it was Emory College or Emory University. But it's Emory University. So here's a flyer for a performance of Atlanta hardcore band Neon Christ, and it's part of the Roses Library Growing Punk Collection at Emory University, documenting punk and DIY culture in Atlanta and the Southeast. By the 1980s, punk music had gotten America's attention. Black Flag, The Clash, the Sex Pistols, and many other bands were pushing the boundaries of music and art. Afro-punk and Riot Grrrl became movements in which persecuted groups could push back against oppressive authorities. Neon Christ, Act of Faith, and Crisis Under Control led Atlanta's own punk scene. No one had heard anything quite like punk. Punk's Not Dead is an explository writing course at Emory this fall. God, I would love to take that class. Wow, I said clash. Did you hear me? That wasn't even on purpose. I meant to say I would love to take that class, and I said I would love to take that clash. Ha! That's a funny slip, if ever there was one, right? All right. The instructor, John Fritz. Actually, you know what? I want that job. Joseph Fritz, excuse me. I can't read this morning, guys. This is my first episode back. We had a little bit of time off, and I'm reading this for the first time. You guys get it. His first-year students have followed the punk revolution. Why can't I have his job? Their goal has been to capture its essence and use it to enhance their writing. I've always had a real passion for punk, the music, the community it creates, the sense of working against authority, and creation itself within the community, Fritz says. He has that the DIY element of punk culture specifically empowers students to write. The aesthetic of DIY, the less than perfect, the rough around the edges, is one that I love to compare to the drafting process of writing. Which means, look, if you take this guy's class and you turn in your paper and you use whiteout pen to write it, he has to give you an A. You gotta be like, look, man, punk aesthetics. If you just you cut out letters of magazines, paste them all together, Xerox it, and turn in your paper that way, he has to read it. If I was teaching that class, I'd accept it. If you were just like, Ron, this is punk rock, I'd be like, fair enough. Or at least on the outset, I'd give a disclaimer. I'd be like, look, you have to type it. I get it. You can make the argument against it, but you have to type it. If you want to make a really cool cover page, I'm in. And you get bonus points. Not extra credit, just bonus points. But unless this guy has a rule, you can just, honestly, you can just like G.G. Allen it and just turn in a piece of paper with a pile of shit on it and be like, hey man, I'm deconstructing. And he'd be like, this is absolutely disgusting. I'm not going to look at that further, and I don't want it in the classroom. So you just get an A for creativity, and please throw that away. And they'd be like, touche. Be like, punk revolution, right? Huh? Don't do that. If you're taking the class and you're watching this video, don't do that. I'm sure Professor Friss is a good guy, and I don't want to see that happen in his class. All right. So let's see what else there is to this. All right, let's learn a little bit more about the collection, then we'll move on to other things. The Stuart A. Rose Manuscript Archives and Rare Book Libraries Punk Rock Collection, which covers 1980 to 2009, is essential to the class's investigation. It allows for its students to look extensively at punk history and culture in Atlanta and across the United States. Students spent an entire class period in October in the Rose Library interacting with the punk collections. Man, how cool is that? If there's any institutions in Los Angeles watching this video, I am available to teach that class here in LA. I will get the right help. I will consult the right people. I will get some good We'll try to get Henry Rollins to be a guest speaker, although I haven't been able to get this on him on the show, so I don't know how good a job I'll do with that, but I'll try. We'll try to get Jello to come down for a bit. We'll try to get some of the folks from X to come in. We'll have a good old time. I will teach that class. What a gig, right? What a gig. All right, so here's something people are excited about. And I might, you know what, actually, I want to end with this. We're going to do something else first. I want to end with this because I want to go to you guys for this because I want you to tell me if I'm missing something, because maybe I am. You know, I'm seeing all this news for the first time too, and I don't claim to be perfect, but, you know, between all of us, we help each other out. So put a pin in what I just said, because I'm going to go to that article last, and I'm going to go to you guys, and we're going to talk about it, because I feel like maybe I'm missing something, or maybe I'm not. All right. Now I've really babbled on about this. We get it, Ron. You're going to ask us something, but not right away. We get it. We also understand how time works. Move on. Got it. I'm happy to be back, by the way. I've missed this very much, and I'm having a really good time. I've really missed you guys, and I hope you've missed me too. This show is really fun. All right. Hang on. Boom. Guys, Theresa May is going to face a vote of no confidence from the Tory MPs. All right, UK Prime Minister Theresa May faces a vote of confidence in her leadership later after 48 of her Conservative MPs called for one to be held. Now, you know, this isn't something I'm crazy familiar with because we don't have a vote of no confidence here in the United States. Why don't we have that, Ron? Because we'd never elect anybody if we did. Because we are given the shittiest of the shittiest of the shittiest choices ever. All the time. We are given two right-wing choices all the time. Our oligarchy doesn't reflect the people that live here. It just doesn't. Am I implying that everyone that lives in the United States is a progressive? No, of course I'm not. I know that's not the case. But we are a far more progressive country than we're given credit for. We are way more into the ideas of populism than we're given credit for. That's why Donald Trump won, because people thought he was an actual populist outsider. He's not. But our system's so broken that people were swindled by a plutocrat billionaire. And guess what? It might happen again. Michael Bloomberg's on the rise. Resistance! So if we actually had a real vote of no confidence, nobody would ever get elected ever. But you know what it would lead to? Less shitty choices. Is England perfect? Hell no. Do they have their issues? Yes. Do they have a better system than us? Hell yeah. Do they have better choices than we do? Yes. There are issues where the Tories, which is the right-wing party over there, is to the left of the Democrats. Healthcare being one of those issues. The Tories are to the left of the Democrats. Their right-wing party, to the left of ours. our quote-unquote left party. And again, it's a right-wing party. We have two right-wing parties. And we only got two with power. We got two. So that's why we can't have nice things like a vote of no confidence. Moving on. All right, but a defiant... All right, so she's fighting this thing, Theresa May is. She warned a new prime minister would be faced with the choice of delaying or even stopping Brexit. Now, a majority of the Tory MPs said that they will back the PM, so they'll be backing her. So she has a lot of support from her party, but she doesn't have all. In fact, some of the attacks are even coming to her right. So far, 174 Tory MPs have publicly said they will vote for her, with 34 publicly against. According to BBC Research, she needs to secure the votes of 159 to survive. So what has she said? Well, in her statement delivered early Wednesday morning, Mrs. May said, a leadership election would not change the fundamentals of the negotiation or the parliamentary arithmetic. Weeks spent tearing ourselves apart will only create more division. Okay. Will there be a new prime minister if she loses the vote? Not immediately. She would be expected to stay on as a caretaker prime minister until a new conservative leader is selected by the party, a process that could take up to 6 weeks. So her party gets to have somebody to replace her. It's not as if all of a sudden there's just another election. So let's see. Now, Labour is calling on her to quit or hold another EU referendum. Labour leader Jeremy Corbyn said the time for dithering and delay is over. The Prime Minister has negotiated her deal. She has told us it is the best and only deal available. There can be no more excuses, no more running away. Put it before Parliament and let's have a vote. So there's a little graph here. So vote of confidence. This is the way it works. Now, if Theresa May wins, then she's safe for challenge for a year. If she loses, stage 1. Each candidate needs 2 MP proposers. So 1 candidate, 2 candidates, 3 candidates. So if they have 2 or more candidates, if they have 1 candidate, then, well, that's the leader, right? Because they only have 1, and that person becomes party leader and prime minister. Now, if they have 2 or more candidates, well, then they got to vote. And if they have 3 or more, they, lowest vote eliminated until 2 remain. So that's how it vote. You get 1, then the person's in. If you get more than 1, then you vote accordingly. So if she gets the vote of no confidence, they will still elect a new conservative leader. However, what this shows is disarray on their side, disarray within the Tories. So I feel like over the long scheme of things, this would be a good thing for Jeremy Corbyn and his ilk. However, this does not just mean that he's just going to be prime minister right away or anything like that. That's not what this means. For anyone that's not crazy familiar with the mechanics of a vote of no confidence, I'm not. We don't have that in the United States. I'm not crazy familiar with it. But, if anyone thought that just meant, hey, Jeremy Corbyn, that's not what it means. But it's an interesting process. And something I wish we had here in the United States, or something similar to it. All right, so here is where I need your all help, and I'm going to go to you after. So a lot of people have been sharing this article that we're going to go to next, and it's from the Washington Post. Now, I'm not saying that this article isn't good news. I think it is some good news. However, I don't know if this is what some people are saying it is. All right, let's go to it. I'm going to be so cryptic. Like, what the is it? Guys, I'm going to read something, and there's going to be words, and we're all going to have a reaction. That's all I want to say. I'm going to read, I'm going to say stuff. You guys might have a reaction. You might not. I don't know. But I'm going to say stuff that appeared in the news on the internet. All right. Okay. I've done enough of this. All right. Boom. An early win for parties left. House Democrats back off tax rule. And there's Ro Khanna. All right, so here's what's going on. House Democrats have backed off a proposed rule that would have made it more difficult for them to raise taxes and pass their most ambitious goals. This is an early victory for the left flank of the party that is about to take control of the House. Representative Jim McGovern in Massachusetts, incoming chair of the House Rules Committee, told lawmakers Tuesday that he will not advance supermajority rules requiring 3/5 majorities to approve tax hikes for most taxpayers, according to Rep. Mark Pocan, Democrat of Wisconsin, co-chair of the Congressional Progressive Caucus. An existing rule created by House Republicans requires a 3/5 supermajority vote in the House to approve any income tax increases. House Minority Leader Nancy Pelosi and other Democratic leaders proposed leaving the supermajority intact for most taxpayers while scrapping the requirement for the wealthiest 20% of Americans and for corporations. But some liberal organizations and lawmakers said that did not go far enough, arguing that even the weaker rule would make it nearly impossible to enact progressive legislation such as Medicare for All or free universal college. Basically, look, we need extensive solutions for an extensive problem. We can't kind of beat around the bush with this, basically. We're very glad to see that one go away. Okay. So I think this is a good thing just on the surface, that they're basically just saying, look, we have some big proposals. If this involves tax increases, that's what it involves. It should also involve a reallocation of the budget, but we got to start somewhere, basically. And there's a lot of loopholes that still protect the rich within this. So those go away as well. Now, here's the part. A lot of people are saying this means pay-go is gone. Now, here's another part of this article. Democrats also face internal division over leadership support for the pay-as-you-go rule known as pay-go, which will require new spending or tax cut legislation to be paid for without adding to the deficit. So this has to do with the deficit. That's what pay-go also has to do with. Henry Conley, a spokesman for Pelosi, said the rule was unnecessary to prevent Democrats from hiking taxes on the middle class. He also noted that House Republicans waived their rule to pass their tax law in 2017 because the legislation did raise taxes on some families. Unlike the House GOP, at the end of the day, the Democratic majority doesn't need an arcane rule to keep our promise to the middle class. Okay. And they point out the richest fifth of taxpayers are those who make more than $108,000 annually. So, here's where I'm at. It seems like this does not eliminate pay-go. It seems like what this does, it just eliminates the tax rule that would make it difficult to raise taxes for certain social programs. It's saying we don't want that rule, we don't want that burden, because we have some ambitious plans that would change the way resources are allocated. Medicare for All would change the way resources would be allocated, because instead of paying a private insurer, you would then have a tax. So by having this rule, this tax rule, where we need a supermajority to change anything with taxes. And the Democrats were calling for some exemption, but you need the rule completely gutted for something like Medicare for All to go through, because the Republicans would just block it via a tax. However, pay-go requires that you can't add to the deficit to bring anything forth. To bring any proposal forth, you can't add to the deficit. You have to find a way to pay for it in other ways. So, while this allows taxing as an option, it does not eliminate pay-go as an idea. This does not mean pay-go is dead. That is my understanding of this. Am I missing something? Because I've seen a couple people sharing this, saying pay-go is dead. Reading in between the lines, it seems like that's not the case. That's just definitionally not what's going on. Am I missing something? Maybe I am. I'm reading this article for the first time with you guys. This is Get Your News On with Ron. Not Ron's telling you your news. Get Your News On with Ron. What am I missing? Am I missing something? Karen says, I think you're right. Emma says, yep. All right, totally agree. Yep. No. Emma says pay-go is not dead. Pago equals phony Democrat. Brian Jeffries, as long as Pelosi lives, so does Pago. Okay, so you guys are kind of... Am I missing something? Like, am I missing... Like, is there anything I'm missing here? And maybe there is. I'm not saying I'm perfect. I'm not saying I know all the answers. I'm just saying it seems like this doesn't mean... Because Pago has to do with the deficit... So you would still need to not add to the deficit under Pago. So this whole thing, eliminating this tax rule where you need 3/5 majority to raise taxes, that doesn't eliminate Pago. That just has more options for taxes, which is what we would need for something like Medicare for All to happen, because that reallocates our resources. And if they can just strike it down via saying no new tax, well then that's what the Republicans would do. But this doesn't mean Pago's gone. Pago seems like another hurdle. So please let me know if I'm missing something. Because otherwise, I'm going to conclude this doesn't mean Pago is dead. Ha! Tim brings up a funny point. Does Pago mean you pay me, then go away? Love it. Daniel agrees. A dingo makes a good analogy here. Correct, they put the tax thing out as insurance, like using 2 condoms. That's a really good analogy. Oh, by the way, using 2 condoms doesn't work. So I know I have some young people in my audience, which really makes me happy. I know I've met some of you at shows. I've met at the Austin show. There were 3... very young guys that were there, and I'll be totally honest, I thought they were lost. And when they were there for the show and were stoked and sat up front, I was really excited. And they were 3 awesome young men, and it was so cool to have them there. And I was really honored that they were there for the show. I honestly thought they were lost, because my show in Austin was a show for... was part of this big event called the East Walk, which is this big walk they have on the east side. So I thought those guys thought they were going to something else. So it was way cool that they were there for the show. And I'm not saying this I'm not saying that, I'm saying this that I'm flattered that, I appeal to young people. And by young people, I mean teenagers. Some of you guys are saying I'm a young person, which I appreciate that very much too. But I'm not a teenager. And I'm just saying I was very honored and flattered that they were there. It really makes me happy that there are some people in their teens and even younger. I've had some 12-year-olds show up with their parents to my shows, which is freaking awesome. And that makes me feel really freaking good. So anyway, I'm saying if you're a younger person and you're watching, don't ever use 2 condoms. It does not work. Don't do that. I've never done it. I just know it doesn't work. Don't do it. That's all I'm saying. Don't do it. So what they're pointing out here is that and Marsh is pointing out that Pago is just BS. Of course it is. Student email says use 3. That's funny, but don't actually do that. Trying to make sure I give sound advice here. Don't actually do that. Sylvia, you are only as old as you feel. Age, it's just a number. You're only as old as you feel. I know 20-year-olds that are older than 72-year-olds, if you know what I mean. And I mean that. I really do mean that. You're only as old as you feel. I had a birthday recently. Not a big fan of my birthday, but I'm really trying to tell myself it's nothing but a number. Andrew, you are not older than me. We are the same age. Although I just turned recently, so I don't know. Creative Experiment says working for a CEO makes you age faster. I don't know if that's true or not, because I don't work for a CEO and I never really did, but I believe you. Jason, thank you for the birthday wishes. It was a week ago. All right, Andrew, you're older than me. You got me beat by my birthday's in December, so you got me beat by a handful of months. You got me beat by 8 months. Mike, everyone's Everyone's sharing their age. I like it. I know a guy who's always 27. Thank you, Daniel. I have been 27 since 33. That's the thing. I mean, if I was keeping track, I go in cycles. But I have been 27 since the year 1933. So, guys, we are running out of time. So, last call. Is there something I'm missing, or is this an accurate reading of it? This doesn't mean Paygo's dead. It just means that a tax hurdle is overcome, but Paygo is just another hurdle all on its own because it has something to do with the deficit, not necessarily just with taxing people. Is that a correct reading? Am I missing something? Everyone's saying their ages. Reeve is 38. Andy's 31. E-Debs is 430. You win. Tim, 44, and still hot AF. Daniel, you'll be 29 on Friday. Congratulations. Happy early birthday. Girly Gamer's 32. Slow News Days is 40. Susan, you're saying, yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, I think we got it right. Nathan's saying not a fan of WAPO. I'm not either. I just, again, the only reason I saw it is because other people were sharing it. And I was like, does this mean? And then I read it, and I'm like, I don't think that means, all right. I mean, it's still good news. It's not bad news. It is not bad news because that's a necessary hurdle for something like free college or Medicare for all because it reallocates resources. So if you had some kind of bogus tax, quote, protection in disguise, which is what that was, the 3/5 supermajority, if you had that, Republicans could block Medicare for all. Well, Republicans and Democrats could block Medicare for all, could block free college. Taking out this tax hurdle, that's one less hurdle. But Paygo is still a hurdle on its own. All right, I think we're getting this one right. I'm pretty sure. Alfonso, 36, going on 19. Love it. And Daniel, happy early birthday. We won't have a show on Thursday, so I'll wish you another happy birthday tomorrow. Or excuse me, we won't have a show on Friday. Your birthday's on Friday. We don't do shows on Friday. That's when the podcast comes out. So we won't be able to wish you a happy birthday on Friday. So we'll wish you a happy early birthday today. And then we will again tomorrow on Thursday. Because, of course, we'll be back Thursday. Guys, we are out of time. Tour dates. Tour dates. Tour dates. Tour dates. January, Florida. Get your tickets now. Gainesville, Orlando, Miami area. Technically, we're in Coral Gables. You get the idea. Oh, and by the way, this is just recently announced. You know who's going to be part of that show? Nico House is going to be part of our show in Miami. Nico House is going to be doing a little thing, saying a few words. So if you're a fan of Nico House, you're going to get to see him live in Coral Gables, January 10th. Get your tickets for that now. New Orleans, Pensacola, March. Romplicone.com for those tickets. April, Texas. We're still working on Austin, and we're still working on San Antonio. So if you have any insights there, let us know. But tickets for Fort Worth and Houston are available now at romplicone.com. And May, we just confirmed 2 shows in Salt Lake City. Get your tickets now, romplicone.com, May 11th and 12th in Salt Lake City. And we should be confirming Boise, Idaho very soon. And East Coast, we're working on you. Other regions, Northwest, we're coming. Denver, Colorado, and Colorado in general, we're coming. Arizona, other parts of California, we're coming. Midwest, we're coming. More dates will be announced for later in 2019. Romplicone.com for all those tickets I just announced. You know. And if you can support this show on the sustainability level, please consider becoming a patron. For a give what you can level, you can give $1 a month. You get all kinds of exclusive content, free tickets to my shows when I'm in your town, and my album. You can get my album anywhere else, by the way. But you can totally get it for inclusion if you just become a patron. It's right there. Yeah, hey. Lucy's feeling a little better. She's a little tired. She went to the vet yesterday, but she's doing well. Guys, we are out of time. We will be back tomorrow. Same bat time, same bat channel, 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. This has been Get Your News On with Ron, the world's first viewer-curated streaming news show. I am thrilled to be back. I missed you all dearly. I hope you're happy to be back, too. Have a wonderful rest of day or evening or whatever it is. See you tomorrow. Peace.